order the Kingston Select Board meeting of February 2024. We will start off the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we had no official pre-planned appointments in here, so we will go right to first public comment. Nothing, Rick? Anyone else for first public comment? If you're gonna speak, you gotta come to that table. You gotta, the button is green, and you have to state your name and address.
Okay.
My name. Sit if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, the mic can't pick you up if you're too far away.
So my name's Brady Barron. I'm not a current resident of Kingston, but I am looking to purchase a house on 10 9th Street.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm actually in here on behalf of the first item on the docket for the new business.
Under new business.
So
Okay.
I'm just here to answer any questions, clarify anything if you guys need it. So feel free to ask. I'll be happy to help where I can. So.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, just hit the button. Yeah, and it'll turn red. Thank you, sir. Okay, so no further public comment. Well, we will move on to committee liaison reports. I'll start with you, Ellie.
I attended the Seabrook evacuation drill on Wednesday. Yeah, we got it, thanks. I attended the Seabrook evacuation drill on Wednesday, and I found it fascinating, to be very honest with you. Yes, there was some downtime, but just the logistics, they had some simulated problems that might occur had we had been in a central station for, I can't remember the name for the group, but I thought it was really well done, and the individual from both the feds and the state level commended Chief Pellerin on a job well done and how he coordinated some of the issues that were raised. So that was pretty good. This week, I plan to meet with the Wage Study Committee is going to regroup and start working on an agenda and a plan of action for the coming year.
Glenn.
I have nothing of note.
Come on. You're going to bring up something as soon as I move on to somebody else.
But I reserve the right.
There you go.
Okay. Planning board had a very busy meeting last week. We had numerous hearings, so there was a lot going on. There was a lot of folks there to discuss the potential cell tower site that abuts over towards the Hampstead line. In the packets, it's stated off of Hunt Road, but it's further into some of those developments over in that area. So there was a lot of conversations and a lot of input from both the Hampstead residents whose property abut that site, as well as Kingston residents. So there is a site walk that is scheduled for that, as well as a balloon test. So the balloon test is where they'll actually fly a balloon at the height that the monopole tower will be flying at, so people can get a visual representation from. And during the course of that, they go and take photos from every road that's within a mile of that proposed site, so that we can have a visual representation to anyone that's curious about what the visual impacts will be. Obviously, a lot of the abutters are concerned about the site, but there are a lot of things going on with that site. So if anyone wants to hop on the agenda look at the agendas upcoming for the planning board, that site walk is open to the public, so it will be considered a public meeting, so anyone can attend. Might be this weekend. You're gonna have to hop on the website because I don't know if I put it in my personal phone calendar. And other than that, that's all I have for liaison updates.
Kingston Days is the 15th. That's Thursday at 6 o'clock here. That'll be the determining meeting on if we are having an event this year. So if you're listening and you're interested, we need a steering committee. And then we need a whole lot of volunteers.
Have you had other inquiries since your last meeting, even though you didn't have a big turnout?
We've had, yes, some people have been inquiring about a job description, for lack of a better term. And don't really have one. We have like an org chart that we provided, and we've had people willing to volunteer their time for different things, but not for steering committee. So I feel like if it were formed, we'd have enough volunteers to put the event on. We just don't have the management in place. Right, right.
I'm gonna post again on Facebook.
I'll talk to Stacy and see.
Yeah.
Yep. On Sunday, the Fairgrounds Study Group, we did a walkthrough of the fairgrounds to discuss, just, brainstorming, right? And going through the property for those who hadn't been out there for a long time. We're meeting on the 28th. At that point, we're gonna start working on our presentation to the select board to then make a determination on how we want to move forward. So stay tuned for that. The collection center will be open on Saturday, 9 to 12, barring any severe weather. I know that's supposed to happen tomorrow, but who knows what'll happen.
That's changing. The latest track is taking it much further south, and we're up on the northern fringe now.
Fantastic. So collection center, 9 to 12. And we are in early discussion about putting on a bulky goods day at the collection center. So we're trying to figure that out. Along others, clothing drives, just a lot. We're just trying to kind of think of places for there. And that's all I have.
Can I do a PSA announcement? Sure. It's not really a liaison, but it's really important this year that folks attend the candidates' night for the elected positions that are on the ballot, and that event is a week from Wednesday. It's on the 21st at 6:30 here in Town Hall. And so you'll get a chance to meet and ask questions of all the candidates that will be on the ballot for select board. There are multiple positions, as well as planning board, zoning board, and so forth. And all the budget committees and anything not school related directly, the positions are open. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll move to our old business on the agenda. So the website upgrade, options and pricing in the packets. Susan, you want to walk us through what you have?
You do have a price in the packets. We looked at the two choices that we had Zoom calls on. We looked at some of the examples. We know we like Civic Plus for the way it is in Exeter. So that's what the pricing is for, to have something similar to that. I don't have mine in front of me. It's 6,100 something. That's what would be, 6,170 would be the first year, including the upgrade and the first year charge. I did notice now, from starting in year 2, it's going to be more per year. It's 54 or something instead of 51. So there's that. We have to pay attention next year if we continue to, that we have to up the price a little bit. I think it's probably our best choice. And you did talk about putting that in ARPA funding, so I put the ARPA chart in here. You could put that first year in with ARPA funds if you choose.
And if we did go down this road, we just have to include that multi-year contract language, that it would have to be subject to approval of being placed, the second year being placed in next year's budget and being approved.
And if you look at what they sent me, it's in the orange folder. It basically is year to year anyway. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
because I did tell them that.
so it's not multi-year?
It's stopping
Yeah,
at any
it's-
time. Okay.
Are they gonna recreate the website, is basically it?
I think they're just going to bring it up to a newer platform.
I'm sure they're gonna design it offline and then get it with a bunch of us testing it. And then once we have it to the place that we're comfortable with, they would make it online.
I'd like to be one of the ones testing it, because I'm one of the older group.
Yeah, for sure,
And
yeah.
I have a hard time with our site now, and only because I know that it's there somewhere that I
Yep.
persisted
Right.
and keep looking. So
Right.
I'd like that opportunity before we go live.
And I think part of the newer one is 503 compliant, which takes into consideration people with color blindness, and I think that was one of the ones you could actually change your font size. So there's a lot of accommodations that newer designers account for. So.
I'm not worried so much about that, but progressing.
The
from one
navigation,
lane-
sure.
Exactly.
Right,
That's the
right.
challenge, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
it's not counterintuitive at all. I mean, it is counterintuitive. It just doesn't make sense.
I think it's probably gonna be easier for people to use, at least more clear where to go to find things. Yeah, if
Yeah.
you look at Exeter's, you'll see what.
Yep. So,
Okay, I'll believe it when I see.
Okay.
so absolutely, Ellie, we will, we'll get a group together
Okay, that's great.
randomly to test it.
So I guess if we're gonna move forward, the most, obviously, because we don't have money for it in this proposed budget, so the most appropriate place would be to come from the ARPA funding. The remaining funds left in ARPA funding, and obviously we'd be looking to engage in just the first year contract committing to the ARPA funds with the intention that the board would be seeking to place this in the budget for continued use during subsequent budget years.
Yeah, it makes sense to take it out
Sorry,
of ARPA.
I thought I had the button pushed, Adam, I'm sorry.
Well, mine doesn't.
So,
Do we need a motion on this, or are we gonna?
well, we should.
Yeah, and I guess just my fault, I just want to make sure that, I know we're looking at online permitting and all those other things, and part of the rationale for, obviously, there's been a lot of complaints about ease of accessibility through the public website from the citizens, but also we just wanted to make sure we had a platform that was a little more upgradable and able to interface with new things with online permitting as we move into down those roads, as well as online maintain the online payments and the other things that we do with a lot more flexibility to put out information more easily.
I'm fine with all that, and I think that it's the appropriate place for it to take the funding from. We'll have to remember to include it in the budget going forward, so someone needs to make a note of that and make sure we don't miss it.
I think Paula already next to that line put a little teeny tiny number for next to remind
okay.
yourself when.
With regard to the ARPA funds, the big chunk that's still outstanding is the number we don't yet know.
Correct.
And that's for the HVAC and the renovations and the front stairs and so forth for this building. So, we're kind of chipping away and, using these funds, but we don't, that's going to be a big number. We don't know what that is yet.
We should be getting that soon from
I know,
Phil.
I know.
And we could remind him, and maybe if you could make a note on the department head meeting, Susan, that we could touch base with him on that.
Yeah, because obviously we
we
don't
need the
we don't
numbers.
want to leave ourselves short, but at least moving forward, if all of a sudden we get some action, and the problem is there's a lot of nuances with the different issues with old wiring and old systems that are in here, so they're trying to get an architect to figure all that out so we don't end up putting Band-Aids on where we should have fixed stuff to begin with. But at least, a project like that moving forward, if it has to be supplemented with capital improvement reserve funds that are available, those are options that we have. If all of a sudden we've kind of chipped away, used some other items, and there's not quite money left, we do have another account that is available for infrastructure for a building.
Yep. So, the appropriate people have reviewed this, and this is being recommended to us to move forward with?
So, agreed on and signed a couple months ago was a on how we were going to handle new contracts. And in that, there's a signature page, and finance director was one of those people to ensure that it would get into next year's budget. So Susan, I would ask that you pull that and circulate it. If we take a motion tonight and we approve, then we can, Chris can sign it as the chair, but that ensures that all of the right people have eyes on this and they put it where they need to put it. Does that make sense?
So the motion would just need to include circulation to the appropriate department heads for review prior to final Board of Selectmen authorization.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize entering into contract with Civic Plus for revamping of our town website per the quoted price for the first year of $6,170. provided that we get appropriate sign-off from any other departments or individuals in town who need to do so, which I guess includes making sure that we follow the procurement procedure.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we do have it on here. Is there any other info that we want to discuss on the ARPA fund balances? Like we said, the largest majority left is the money that we're trying to allocate for the HVAC and electrical upgrades and the steps of the town hall. So really, everything else has really been allocated towards a lot of different projects.
Yeah, most of them related to accessibility to meetings and information and all of the things that raised their ugly heads when the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, you know, we went remote and people had a hard time getting information. So a lot of what we're doing with some expenditures like this is trying to improve that situation going forward.
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll move on to the Poet System bid package update from DES and Verdantis.
Glenn and I sat in on a call today.
So Susan and I had a wonderful, what was it, hour and a half session
Yeah.
with New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services and our contractor Verdantis, who is helping us get the RFP in correct format this time. And so before it went out, the Department of Environmental Services had to review, so the draft RFP got reviewed, and the meeting today was to go through it, get some questions answered, and do some fine-tuning before it gets released. And so it's close, but we're not quite there yet. Some small tweaks need to be made to it, but it shouldn't be long now before we have a product that we can release for bids. So.
Okay.
Are there any other concerns from Mr. Dan?
Doyle.
He's still on good terms, and he's got enough information.
He does. And listen, he understands the position we're in, but let's face, I mean, when your drinking water is affected at home, you're going to be upset. And I spoke with him at deliberative session, and I said, I understand your frustrations, and if I was in your shoes, I would be banging the drum just like you are, and I'd be just as frustrated as you. I said, I don't take it personally. I go, I have very thick skin, but I understand your frustration, and he understands there's certain hoops we have to jump through. But when it comes to clean drinking water coming out of your tap,
I do understand that, and I feel bad for him and the others that are, because the process has been delayed, but as long as he's been kept informed, I guess is the right phrase.
Yeah.
So he knows we're moving forward.
He is.
Okay, that's good.
okay, so we have to approve the welfare guidelines 01-F1 that is in our packets. And I know, so I had the questions last time. I just wanted to verify that these weren't essentially changes. They were just putting it into an actual policy format with the stuff that you've been working on.
Correct. She, the Human Services Director, was in the process of updating these, and she wanted to keep them separate for easy accessibility. But so, yeah, so she just laid it out, and it's ready for approval, review and approval.
One motion. I move that we approve policy number
19, yep.
1901-F1.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that passes. Discuss the official Facebook page. We have some notes from admin in our packets. So what I'll do is,
Do you want Adam to come out?
yeah, well, why don't I just read these, and Adam, I'll read these out loud, and if you have any additional comments that you want to add, please feel free. So the Office of Select Board, and we'll use the current Office of the Select Board Facebook page, and we can rename it to the Town of Kingston or Town of Kingston, New Hampshire. And we have some of the following comments. We wouldn't allow for general comments. The intro to the page can state sharing to personal page, and commenting is encouraged. Comments are allowed when an event is created. Comments would be allowed when a post mentions another page or profile, such as the recreation department, and the comments are limited to the page or profile mentioned. Regarding meetings, for regular meetings, monthly post at the beginning of the month will have a reminder to check the website calendar and include a link. Emergency meetings of the select board will be posted. Cancellations of meetings will be posted. This includes for the select board, planning board, ZBA, and budget committee. Announcements and events. We'll share items on Monday for the week. Emergency postings would be handled such and posted accordingly. We'll share posts from other departments such as the police department, fire department, Department of Public Works, town clerk, recreation department, human services, and the library. And because we are using the select board page, we may need to create another one if there are specific posts coming from the select board, which I think if we're migrating this from the select board page, we can say that this would be the primary social media posting location for any official select board material. Okay. Instead of creating another subsequent page. I think that would probably be better. Okay. We'll create events for things, anything out of the ordinary, such as deliberative sessions, public hearings, elections, etc. And the goal would be that the tone of the post would be friendly but factual. So our admins, our primary administrator of this page would be Adam Faulkner, and backup would be Susan and Caitlin, and that's dependent on town clerk approval for authorization for Caitlin to do that as well. And any announcements must be to Adam before 9 a.m. on Monday to meet the posting deadline requirements for the social media pages.
The only thing that comes to mind with what is something with a... I thought I did that.
You tried.
I did try. No, I didn't. There may be last minute things we might want to get on, and we gotta have a vehicle. If Adam isn't available, maybe Caitlin would be the backup.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or Susan,
sorry,
right,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, again, like, oh, I can post things. It was just as a rule.
Let's say a snowstorm, we're canceling that meeting.
Well, that's an emergency, and we accounted for that.
Yeah.
So, but regular, like, rec department activities, that needs to be to Adam by Monday morning. So
Right, a
regular
deadline.
stuff.
But
But last minute stuff, either Adam or Susan or Caitlin.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so I think those are all great guidelines. Like I said, I just don't want it to become a dumping ground for negativity.
Oh, well, because of the comment thing, it won't be able to, because comments it just is not a function that's allowed for general purpose. But if you create an event, it automatically comes with commenting, but
Yeah.
Adam will be monitoring it and removing content,
So you just,
period,
and so
any comment.
One thing that has to be posted on the front page, on the front section, is a terms of use, and you have to, because with a municipality, taxpayer essentially run social media platform, you are very limited in the content that you can remove. And if you were going to ever ban a person who's been posting inappropriate content, or you were even going to delete some of the, if you just temporarily delete it, but if it gets problematic, you actually have to screenshot it and maintain it for posterity, because what can happen is even if you delete it from hiding it, then they delete their account. It disappears, and I've seen civil suits where they then come back and say, you've violated my First Amendment rights, and you can't prove that you didn't because you don't have the content anymore.
Right, and that's a conversation that we had.
Yeah.
Good, bad, or indifferent, just so that issue, because no one's commenting.
Yep.
Yeah, just to clarify, again, the regular posts, the option that we're going to be selecting is you cannot comment on any post on this page unless you're mentioned in the post. So I just keep picking on Paul. I don't mean to pick on Paul, but if Paul Butler posts something for rec department and wants it, and we mention him,
then the rec department will be able to comment on that. No one else will be able to comment on that. What I was actually thinking, and to address your point, the comments we for the events, I've tried. But what we can do, and I did check this before, so that's why I can speak with a certain level of confidence on this. What you said is correct. It can be a First Amendment thing unless we make it clear that nobody gets to comment. So even if it's just like, oh, I'll be going to this. Nope, deleting that. So long as, if we delete everything, nobody can complain. As the example I used, we have public comment sessions or periods during these meetings, but if somebody comes in not during a public comment and just starts shouting from the floor, you're allowed to say, no, this is not the time for that. So you are allowed to limit, but it's just, you have to do it uniformly is all. So, so yeah, they're allowed because we can't disallow them, but we would go through and we would delete them just to make sure they, yeah, so.
And if you could make it shareable, it'd be great. Because
Yes.
Oh.
You can have a whole comment. Yeah, you can have a comment, fest. So the other thing that Adam brought up is Facebook loves to throw ads in there, and we can't control that. So he's going to research on how we do that, because we don't want. We just don't want any ads because you don't know what's going to pop up, and that's not cool. So we're just gonna.
Yeah, I did check.
Options.
It looks like we're actually not set up to show ads right now, so I'm going to. There is one situation I'm aware of where it did happen. I have no earthly idea how, but I did just. I was actually just checking a couple of minutes ago. We are currently not set up to have ads on our page. So.
And it's
yeah.
probably good just to put something in the terms of use box saying, should any ads appear, they are not supported, endorsed, or from the town.
So Adam and I will work on finalizing all of this, and probably by the next week sometime.
Yep. One suggestion under the meetings category, number 3, the boards listed there. I'd like to add the Historic District Commission and the Heritage Commission to that list, if possible.
Yeah.
For cancellations, yes.
But it says includes, and it lists the board specifically.
And then, yeah, it misses that.
That's why this was up for discussion, Glenn, because it was just Adam and I brainstorming.
Sure.
Okay. So if we get word that there's a cancellation, we'll post that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to be using this as the vehicle, though, for making those kinds of announcements, should we be letting all these boards know so that they get that information to Adam so that it can be posted?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Keeping in mind, this is for regular scheduled meetings. We're not posting, there's a meeting tonight at the Historic District where the beginning of the month, there's going to be a reminder, go to the website, here's the link for the calendar, check your when meetings are. So because it's too onerous, there's so many meetings, it's too onerous to constantly do that. Yep. So we'll post cancellations of regularly scheduled meetings, yep, or emergency select board meetings or a deliberative session, but not the regular things, because that's too, everybody has their own page, and we still want people to go to the website.
Sure.
Just to elaborate, as far as Lori said, is HTC Heritage, and that would either go up the first Monday of the month or the closest Monday to the first day of the month, I would say. So I probably, if the first was a Tuesday or Wednesday, I'd put it up the Monday beforehand, but if that works for everybody.
Thank you for working on that.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
I know you had an item you wanted to bring up from old business before we move to new business.
I do, thank you. I'd like to make a motion to reconsider the vote that we took regarding our position on 5 Exeter Road, which is the small lot that we said was now a buildable lot. And so I'm not making the motion to rescind the vote, but I'd like to add something to it.
I'll second that. Let's get it up for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to open back up for, reconsideration, the vote taken regarding 5 Exeter Road, status as non-buildable to buildable. So we have first and a second. So any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No? Okay. All right.
Okay.
So you want to bring additional information to the table?
Well, it's sort of reiterating my concern, and it was why I abstained from the vote that night. It's not that I didn't believe that it should be a buildable lot, but I wanted to make sure that the town and the abutting properties were protected when it gets developed, because a lot of stuff has to happen on a very small lot, including dealing with a high water table, which is going to mean raising structures, not only the septic system, but the building.
Let me do just one point of order here.
Yeah.
Since you abstained, can you still, okay. I just want to, because if we do make any changes, I know the person won't like that, but I would rather keep it cleaner. I am willing to be a reconsider. So you can, I just want to make sure we didn't.
An abstention is
an abstention
considered-
carries with
It goes
the majority.
with the majority.
Okay.
Yes. So essentially, I'm sorry?
This is something new that's, where the abstentions now becomes the majority, that new to me. 35 years as moderator, never had that. If you didn't vote for it or vote against it, you did not get to reconsider, because whatever was the prevailing side should be who brings it forward.
Well, I'd be happy to retract, if you feel uncomfortable with it, I'll
I would just
retract
say,
the motion and let
if
someone
we're
else.
going to make any potential decisions, I would rather it just be cleaner so nobody could challenge that portion of it. So I will make the motion to reconsider.
And I will second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I agree. I think you're technically right on this, because the abstentions always go with the majority of however the vote went.
Right.
But traditionally, we have not really followed it that way. It's usually been whoever goes on the prevailing side. Does the applicant at the time know that we're reconsidering it now?
No.
They don't. And so I guess with kind of my further discussion, if we were going to make any if we were going to make a vote to make any changes to that, I would prefer that we notify the applicant and not make that vote until they were present and able to provide any other continuing information. But I definitely don't mind opening it back up so you can discuss other information that's been made available.
Sure. Okay, so going back to what I had said, I'm not looking to keep the non-buildable status of the lot. I believe that it's appropriate for it to be a buildable lot. The technology has changed over the years to the point where they can put a house and a septic system and a well on that site. I mean, they showed us the plans, and I believe the soils support it. There is a high water table, and as I said, it's going to require raising all the structures on the site, the septic as well as the buildings. And so the other thing, there could be complications as a result of that, not the least of which is, where does the stormwater runoff go from this raised stuff in the center? It's going to have to go out to the side somewhere, and on such a small lot, how does that then get mitigated so that it doesn't impact the adjacent properties? And so all I would like is what I had asked for at the last meeting, and that was that before any permits are approved for this, that our town engineer have the opportunity to review it and comment on it. That's all I'm looking to do.
I don't have any objections to that at all, but
No, I agree, and I will say, I know I spoke with Pedro today, and he looked at some of his provisions that give him authorization to make sure certain things are in place. I guess having somebody now that in this position full-time that is competent and is obviously taking on this position in the manner that the town desired and wanted it to, I still feel comfortable with the way we left it, because it really, and I explained to Pedro before, I said, listen, I think it's possible and it's absolutely buildable. It could end up being very cost prohibitive for whoever decides to do it because of whatever mitigation measures may be happening in place, but that's placed on them. But, you know, this isn't 10 years ago. Any buildable lot anywhere in southern New Hampshire, most people will take whatever it takes and spend the money to make a buildable lot because there's such a lack of availability. So I still feel comfortable in that. I wouldn't be opposed if the board wanted to take that reconsider measure to add that to the language, but I would only want it done if we renoticed or reached out to the applicant to let them be here to make any responses to that.
Well, do you think that there would be enough oversight from the building inspector to cover my concern as opposed to having town engineer look at it?
For how much he went and did after we made the vote to make it buildable and brought to our attention and research, I would say that there will be plenty of oversight. He really went above and beyond. I mean, and then even just he was showing me additional stuff today through the ordinance, through the state laws and building code that authorized him to implement certain measures to make sure that it was done correctly. And I believe that he has the authority based off of that to do that. So if you want to chime in on this.
Alrighty, that sounds better. Perfect. So yes, and with the decision I made, I don't want them to be in conflict with the motions that the board made. And some of those decisions, like Chairman Bashaw stated, came out of the legislature, which will allow me to pretty much request scientific data to back up their intent on how they're going to be building it. With regards to the oversight, those areas of oversight definitely need a specialized overview or inspection or review because you need specific background that I don't have in order to review those. So definitely the motion for Chairman Glenn Koppelman is one to be observed, and it will be my advice to be observed what he intend to achieve. Because again, those are areas of expertise that even though the building code have measurements to call for them, it doesn't have a set areas of procedures or what I will be looking at in order to comprehend the level of detail and involvement that will take to do what is required in order to make that site work properly.
So are you saying that in addition to your review, that you feel that town engineer, someone with civil engineering background, would be appropriate to review it as well?
Yes, sir, most definitely, because like I said, I do not have the scientific background to overview and say this comply with this set of rules, and based on my calculations or research or investigation, it complies with the standard requirements of the building code.
Sure. And I understand what you're saying now, and I would have been perfectly comfortable if you felt that you had the qualifications to do that, and that I wouldn't carry this any further about bringing the town engineer into it.
And I guess just my reading and what he showed me today, I think he has the authorization to require that review. I don't think it doesn't say that he has to provide it. I think within that state law, he can absolutely demand that level of review from his position. I don't think he needs our mandate that it happens. I think if he gets to a point where he says, yep, I don't feel comfortable with this and I need additional review, he can require it through the state law.
And also it reduce the level of liability that the town has, because I don't want to be in my position to render design aspect of the built environment. So that is one thing that I like to abstain from, rendering an opinion that can be considered as a designing for the applicant or the general public or the resident.
Okay.
So I would say, why don't we reach out to the let's have Susan reach out to the applicant that had the conversion and state, we just want to make sure we've done some review of state law. Our intention is that if it requires engineering review, we're required to authorize that based off what we've done. If you feel If you don't feel that that is the case, we invite you to come back because we do want to discuss this further to make sure there's no misunderstandings before they invest any time and money that they feel like they've been, led astray. And if they say, no, we understand you have the right to do that, that's fine. If not, I think we ought to bring it in and then decide if any other decisions need to be made. All right, new business. I know somebody's waiting for that. So we have in our packets a request for conversion from seasonal to year-round residents at 10 9th Street. So what I'm going to do is, just make sure I have the dates right. I'm just going to, so people understand, I'm just going to read kind of the series of emails starting from the beginning. So we do have an email from Kathy Johnson Wokel. Appears as though she's a realtor, and she contacted our office stating, I'm selling a property in Kingston and the buyers are trying to get approval to change it to year-round home. They've gotten signatures at the state level and now need the town to sign off. We have some further response from our office advising of the process about speaking with the health officer and discussing a septic situation. But it says it needs to be reviewed by the select board, and the property card would need to reflect changes, including that it will now be approved as a 2-bedroom home as we currently understood it. And then we offered them some procedural items. The realtor was unaware of the 2-bedroom approval and asked if it was because of the septic. And ultimately, we are now at, it's currently for sale by Dorothy Turcott, and the buyers are taking on converting it to a year-round home. This is a request for the town to change the zoning of 10 9th Street in Kingston, New Hampshire to a year-round home. The state of New Hampshire has approved the septic plans for year-round use. Please see the attached approval from the state as well as the septic plans. The bylaws have changed and recorded well releases are no longer required, and the encroachment waiver process has been removed, which is what held this property up from being considered year-round previously. Everything else in the home is considered livable for year-round use. The state has approved the home as a 2-bedroom home. The state guidelines with this approval give the new buyers 4 years to replace the septic. And that information was coming from Kathy Wokel, the realtor.
And just to be clear, there was a statement made in this correspondence that we'd be asked to be changing zoning. That's not the correct term. Correct. Yeah, we don't change zoning. Maybe designation of the property and its status, but not zoning.
I mean, this, we do have this with the information here. I know we have the folks here. Is there any statements you'd like to make, just any additional thing that you think we may be missing or may be pertinent before we discuss further?
Is this close enough? I just, there was one sentence, it was one of the last sentences you said, which was that we have 4 years to replace the current septic system. But what I understand and what I've been told by the state and is that essentially the new septic plan doesn't require any construction or any shovels to even be put in the ground. It was just more of the lot loading requirements. So that's, I mean, we can go into more detail about that, but essentially the fact that we're changing it from a 3-bedroom to a 2-bedroom is all we really require, because the current system that is in the ground currently was replaced in 2017 due to a failure, and everything that is there is functioning properly, and it's if you look at the old plan versus the new plan, nothing has actually changed in terms of construction. So
I was a little bit confused by that, because I traditionally haven't seen where we give you approval and then you can fix it within 4 years. It either has to be replaced now, or the plan has to be in place in case of another failure, and then proving that it's able to be constructed within the lot loading. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct, and if you allow me to approach, also, when I reviewed this email today, it actually goes in hand with your approval for construction. What they should have given you is some sort of approval for operation, which we don't have. So we will need, it's like if you were building a new house, and you have, obviously, the town have septics on new houses, you cannot move into that house until you get approval of operation of the septic, because you need sanitary usage or facilities in order to occupy a home. We don't have that data. And that is one thing that you will need to refer back to the state and seek that they give you some sort of for what you have, whether by means of they inspecting it, or maybe they want you to hire somebody to do a proper inspection of the current septic, because there are many things. You just provided data saying that in 2017 the septic was replaced due to failure, and it is my understanding, based on historical facts and information that I gathered from the conversation you and I had at the counter, is that the property is being used illegally as a year-round, which is concerning to the town, because this can be a very big, it has a really big impact on the health of the abutting neighbors and the actual municipality, the town itself. So I do want you to achieve your goal. I just want to have proper procedure so that the town can make the decision on this matter, having the actual the factual data with regards to this property. Also, it is my understanding, based on conversation that you and I have, that it is currently 3-bedroom. So we will need some sort of plan for the building department showing the layout of the home and what is the intended use and how all the areas are being used, as some sort of document that will stay with the property file in case in the event you sell or something happen. We have property factual data that we can show to anybody that shows concern. That'll be my only questions with regards to this project.
So my understanding is that we don't have the operation certificate from the system that was replaced in 2017.
That is correct. I tried to check all the research, and everything point out to a seasonal use operational, not to a year-round.
Okay, so is this kind of one of those things where they hold each other up? Because he doesn't have approval for year-round use, he can't get the certificate of certificate of operation for. Yeah, which one comes first? Okay, so if we were to take action on this, we would have to make it a condition that upon authorizing year-round use, we would need to make sure that we, in a certain amount of time, we were provided with a certificate of year-round operation.
Yes, and also I also have discussion with Mr. Wickel, and we have to go in depth with the intent for the buyer and the current use of the property, and we don't have any information on how it transitioned from seasonal to year-round use, and that it's been going on and nothing has happened is not a proper solution to this actual problem.
It happened.
You're gonna buy this property, so you're gonna inherit pretty much whatever comes with it. In this case, the legal use has to be brought to current and legal use of the property, and you want to follow the structure, that way you safeguard your investment. So, and also the town actually is looking out for the resident and general well-being of the residents of the area and of the town, making sure that we have all the proper paperwork and procedures in place so that this is a feasible project for you.
But I appreciate you being here before you've gotten too far down the road, because I'm sure it can be it's very frustrating when somebody essentially inherits problems they didn't realize existed, and then their first interaction with the town appears to be adversarial. That's not the way we want it. So I just want to open it up for board discussion, questions, concern. I'm sure you'll have some input, Glenn.
Well, just a comment. The Realtor is stating that the state of New Hampshire has approved the septic plans for year-round use. What they've approved is a septic design that's labeled year-round conversion. Okay, the state of New Hampshire does not tell the town whether or not a property is year-round or seasonal. The town determines that. The state has approved the septic system design. That's fine. And the design that they have approved says that it's for year-round conversion, but they're really approving just the septic system and the fact that it will support a two-bedroom home. I suppose you could infer from that because it was submitted as a year-round conversion, that they're determining that it's it's going to be used year-round. So de facto, I suppose, but the ultimate decision for conversion to year-round would be the town's.
Not only that, general terms, they relieve themselves because they made an approval based on a design, not on an inspection. So again, they are safeguarding themselves, not you, in this type of trying to do. And they have clear comments on what they are doing and how they are doing it. And they also comment on section 6, which is general terms and conditions, what they are intending to see. And in that same section, it says that you're pretty much installing a new septic, which is not, I understand what the comments you made, and I understand where it's coming from, but I wanted to let you know what they are saying on their section and the legalities ramification of it, okay?
Is the house occupied? Is someone living there?
Yes, it is.
Or year-round?
It's better information that I have obtained is being used year-round illegally, not seasonally.
So this gentleman here is seeking us approval from us to go year-round official.
Yes, so he's following the right procedures in order to do it correctly, yes.
Yeah, this is what, I mean, this is one of those things where obviously a lot of times people can get away with stuff until it comes time to sell it. And then they're like, oh, in order for this to legally transfer and people want to finance things and do things. And this is kind of one of those things where you don't want to punish somebody who's here to do the right thing because something has been done inappropriately in the past by a current previous owner. But we just want to make sure that it's done properly to safeguard the neighborhood, safeguard the town, and safeguard somebody who's potentially looking at becoming a new owner of the property. The last thing you want is to own something and then it be tied up with all sorts of legal issues.
So is it in fact a year-round, a two-bedroom property?
No, it's currently a 3-bedroom property, and it's been used year-round.
Operating on a two-bedroom septic system?
Operating on a year-round 2-bedroom system because the approval is for seasonal for 3. So seasonally, they can use it with 3 bedrooms. Year-round is a different story. Now you're...
Sir, are you aware of that?
Yes.
You are, okay.
Yes.
Do you have any questions? Are you comfortable with your path forward?
I just want to be clear. So even though there is no construction to be done, I need the approval for occupancy, the approval for construction, even though it's approved for, it's approved for year-round use.
Yes, what you don't have is an operational approval, meaning that the septic is being operating for the intended use.
Okay, so it's essentially an inspection that needs to be done, or?
It will depend on rules and regulation from the state, DES, because they are the one that rendered the operational approval, along with our health officer. And that is part of you attending the CO from me saying that you can occupy this building in a safe manner.
Okay, so if the state's aware of the intended use and they know that it was approved for construction, but based on the way the plan's drawn, and if the way the septic is currently installed is exactly how it is drawn on the approved plan, and no construction needs to be done, is there any situation in which you wouldn't need the operational approval? Like, are they synonymous in any case? Like this one where no construction is necessary?
Yes, and I see. No, they are not. An operational approval is when the septic that is installed is ready to be used for the intended purpose. In this case, what they give you is a construction approval. For whatever reason they did it, I really don't know, but they pretty much did it based on the design submitted. And even though the design says for year-round, as the Selectman Copperman stated, this does intention that you are going to be installing a new septic. This is what, in writing, it gives the rendition. And based on the conversation that you and I exchanged it, that's what to express you. We don't have the information that certify and factually say you can occupy this as a two-bedroom year-round. This says you can occupy it as long as you have this septic system installed, whether it is in place and it has been inspected for. That's the information that we don't have. We don't know whether that septic is suitable for the intended use. We understand that the septic that was rendered in the design is what they approve. Necessarily mean that what they approve based on that design is what you have.
So there needs to be either this system built that's been approved, or verification that a system like that or similar to its function is in the ground and functioning there.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you.
Okay.
So apart from the approval of the septic system, what else needs to occur to ensure that this house can go from seasonal to full-time?
Well, first of all, I'm concerned that if it is in fact a 3-bedroom property operating on a 2-bedroom septic system, that's a concern.
Yes, so we don't have data on when or how it happened, the change from seasonal to year-round. We don't have data on what was done to this property, showing that it complies with those building codes that were in place back in when it was changed. So in order to facilitate, because as Mr. Bashaw said, Select Board Bashaw said, we don't want to inhibit anybody from occupying the building, making the right decision, and we don't want to make it difficult. So what I think that we can do is not the sense of a spilled condition, but because what is as built? What was done? We don't know. But at least to have a layout plan of the existing property, what is the existing condition, and how it's going to change to comply with the to that level of stand, being able to render an approval on behalf of the future owner or the owner to be.
Pedro? Have you checked with DES in Concord to see if there's a plan on file for this property?
I have not called
anybody?
DES.
Have you?
For the approved septic plan?
For what's in the ground there now?
Yeah, there is a plan there.
On file at the state?
Yes.
So someone could produce that plan.
They should be able to, yes. I don't see why not.
You don't have a copy of it?
No. Okay. I do have it in email. I don't have the existing plan.
But you're convinced that that plan exists and that DES has approved it and they have a copy of it?
I've seen it, yes.
Okay.
I believe also one thing to comment is that based on the file that I have seen, the property as rendered to this property is for seasonal use. And we're intended to change that to a year-round use. So if those plans are on file for DES, you also want to try to portray that they give you something in writing saying that they give you an approval for operation for a year-round on the existing septic system. Also, it has to be something rendered in a manner that is very clear that there is an acknowledge that it is a system in the likes of the one that was designed, and that it is okay for the town.
Do the neighbors know what's going on? I mean, there's going to be a public hearing in this, wouldn't there be? How would your neighbors know what you're doing?
This is one of those things that's very difficult because at some point in time, all of these seasonal cottages went through this transition period, and I get it, and I'm sure there was no public hearings when that happened. And this just, when you have, it's the last ones, those are the ones that seem to draw the most attention, and I guess my tough thing is I'm much less, Glenn can tell you from our times in the planning board, much less willing to offer latitude to new construction developments that try to say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and then we just completely abandon the plan, come in and do it as built. But when we're inheriting these properties that are being occupied for sometimes decades, and incorrect information is being passed from neighbors to current owners to people who are occupying it, obviously the standards are very different. So, but it's also difficult too, because these are our properties that are close to our waterways and our lakes, and so I'm comfortable offering some latitude regarding the building items and the number of bedrooms, such as the building inspector has outlined, but we need something on file to do that. But I just want to make sure that any action we take is phrased properly to make sure that we get the proper DES approvals and oversight. So if he's saying I would only feel comfortable authorizing something if it had the language that stated, this would be a conditional, our approval would be conditional based on, again, because I think one of the issues they're gonna have is if we don't say this is okay for a year-round thing, how can he get an operational approval saying it's okay for year-round? So I think there are these two things that hinge on each other. So I would want any approval, if we were to offer it, to be conditioned based on getting verification that the current system in place meets the DES standards for whatever they need for year-round approval. Because my concern is that if you get this, if you find out, yeah, they put this place on file, if the previous owner had never sought to go full seasonal, if the previous plan is only indicated as being seasonal, DES may not know what they've even granted approvals on, so they may say, well, no, if it's gonna be year-round now, it actually doesn't meet our standard. It only meets our standard if we were saying that's for seasonal. So I would only be comfortable granting that based on the condition that it was provided, approved, and done by DES, and if they can't provide that the year-round consideration would expire. Give a certain amount of time to get that documentation. I don't know what an appropriate amount of time is with something like this with DES, because it should be stuff on file, and they would have to just verify that it currently exists, and then if they have to, they may have to convert it, their authorization, with a review that the current system meets it for full-time. Yes. This one's, clear as mud.
Clear as mud, and I want to make sure that anyone over there can figure out what he needs to do to get the approvals he needs. Is it clearer than mud for you?
Yes, honestly, I'm very close to this, and it makes sense.
I don't want to belabor this, but I have a couple other questions. So in this email, it talks about the bylaws were changed and the recorded well releases are no longer required, and that the encroachment waiver process has been removed from. Somebody can educate me on that? That'd be great.
Yes, so a well release is, for example, 5 Exeter is a good example. Next door, because of the inability to produce a proper well clearance. Well clearance goes from 75 feet for state and 100 feet within town ordinance. So those clearances are for well protection. You cannot achieve that radius of protection. You gotta do a release because you cannot inhibit a lot from becoming buildable just because you don't have the size for you to place your well. So you cannot make another person that owns a lot not being able to build because now you have a well there and the radius of this well, you cannot build on your lot. So in order to prevent that, there are these RSAs on the state. I just don't know where she comes about when she states that the bylaws have changed and that recorded releases are no longer required. She will need to show the RSA that says that. It cannot just be he said, she said, because there is a law. And
that was my point, right? Where they're stating two things in here that they're cleared up, but.
I sincerely question whether or not that statement is valid.
Right. And, right, so I would question that as well, right? To make sure that, there's a lot of information in here that's saying everything's great. And then you get into a deal where it's not great, and so we just want to make
So
sure
if-
that you're aware.
That's a great point. And on the septic plan, I made sure the engineer included it right on the plan. Under, if you look, I have a copy here too. I have the giant version. So it's under NHDES new well note.
Under NHSDS new well note effective August 29, 2023, the following changes are made to the way wells are regulated. 1, recorded well releases are no longer required. The encroachment waiver process has been removed. The well driller is responsible for completing the required forms to be submitted to the well board and sitting the well appropriately. If on-site well location is less than the required setback, then a waiver is required. So I guess that makes me feel a little bit better that it's on an engineered plan with their stamp. I have. This is not an easy one. I would like to do something that would enable them to pursue getting the correct information from DES. But like I said, I think there needs to be some sort of bend on the town to allow that conditionally. But I just want to make it very clear that if the conditions are not met, then in a certain amount of time, and I think we would have to state that, then that year-round granting does not take effect unless we're provided the information to verify that the septic is being done properly in accordance with DES. But I think if we don't take some action, DES isn't going to sign off on it until the town has said, yes, we will allow it to be for year. They're not going to say it's approved for year-round use on that existing one unless we're saying that we would even entertain it going that way.
Right. Then the quandary for us then, if we're all comfortable with it, it's been year-round. We don't know whether the septic system is good enough for year-round, right?
Well, DES would make those determinations of whether they need some type of inspection or they need a report from a verified, certified person to inspect.
So my question would be then, as the select board, can we give a conditional year-round occupancy without notifying the neighbors? To me, that's something that would happen at the planning board or zoning if it needed an exception. I don't know. You know where I'm going with it? Just are all the houses around you all year round?
As far as I'm aware, yes,
Legal or not? Authorized or not? I mean, I won't use the word legal. Authorized or not?
Are you aware of any provisions that would prevent us from going down that road from your tenure on the planning board? I mean, I'm
not aware.
It's not the cleanest method, I'm sure, but I think we have to make a pathway forward. So let me offer a suggestion, and before I make the motion, if I said we would grant this conditionally based on the conditions of providing the appropriate information by DES provided to this board within 90 days, with the provision that if you were hitting the 90-day window, you could come back before the board and ask for an extension, which could be based off of information provided to us showing progress. Because I don't want to just say, oh, DES didn't get back to me in time, and then so now my conditional use expired. If they could show that they're making progress with getting the answer that we may need, that we could allow for an extension of that timetable of that conditional use. But I want it to be tied to the condition that we get the appropriate operational approval from DES in place to show that it's appropriate.
Yes, yeah, I'm actually, I do agree with that. And yeah, it will serve for that, because it's either that or start policing the entire neighborhood and start.
Be highly motivated to move that information along, and I'm sure a realtor on either side would be highly motivated to get those answers quickly, because nobody wants to tie up money, and banks don't like to finance things that they don't understand are absolutely authorized and approved. So with everything I just said, can we do that as so moved as my motion, Susan? So just to recap, it'll be, we will grant conditional approval of year-round use for 10 9th Street, based off of plans being submitted to show their intended use to the building inspector to be placed in the property file, as well as getting the proper operational certificates necessary for year-round use of the current system from the Department of Environmental Services of New Hampshire. With the due back to the town within 90 days, with the option to ask the board for an extension should any parties be able to provide data showing progress with Department of Environmental Services. All right, so that's my motion.
And I still second it.
Further discussion.
You're going to get a no vote for me only because we're still talking about a 2-bedroom septic system and a 3-bedroom home, and I'm sorry, they do not match. So that's my issue.
And I think that's where part of DES is going to have to base their decision based off of the intended use or use as is being used. And because they're going to have to provide that floor plan with what the current use is being used as is, and because they've already stated the intent is for it to be a 3-bedroom.
No,
No.
the plan is for a 2-bedroom.
Okay, the new plan.
Yeah,
Yes, so they have to, the new plan has to show a 2-bedroom layout
Okay.
with everything labeled and dimensioned the way it is. That way we can have it on the file. And if it's misused, then all applicable laws, regulations, and enforcement will take place.
if the motion were to include a statement that it's for a 2-bedroom residence only, which matches the septic system design, then I can go along with it.
I'll move that. I'll amend my motion to include that.
That's what the intent is.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So
Makes it easy.
we're in a place where I think we all feel as comfortable as we possibly will, which is not very. Okay. So any further discussion? With the amended motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Looks like people have work to do.
And welcome to Kingston.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, Pedro.
Yeah. Good night. Good night. Okay.
I need a ton of Kingston magnets, so I can do 75.
Huh. I just gotta make a quick. What's your plate number? Okay. We have questions from question from the planning board. They asked about the removal of Article P-Roman numeral 3 in the town ordinances info packets. This is a preamble of amendments. The planning board voted to remove this and put it to the select board to make sure they were okay with it. Because it just kind of generally talks about any amendments that have occurred, and they felt some folks have experienced some confusion because, I mean, you could just say it happens every year at the town election by adding that. Glenn had pointed out it is very easy to update. It traditionally hasn't, but it seems to be more, their opinion on this was it's more effective when you see actually the date in the individual ordinance, instead of just saying, hey, everything was amended on this date. Some of it may have been amended, but they felt it was appropriate to draw attention to the dates to each specific ordinance, referencing the actual date or year that it was amended. And that's why they had mentioned voted to remove this.
Well, here we go. This is my night for no's, or for questions. I understand the reason for asking for it, and I can agree that if this is not kept current, then it conflicts with what's inside the zoning ordinance under specific articles that get amended, and there's an amended date that's then different than here. I understand that. But by having this page in there, and it's very typical for a zoning book to have this page in there, most towns do, so that someone can open their book to one of the very first pages and see whether they've got an updated book. And so my preference would be that we just be a little more diligent about each year after town election, just putting a new date of the amendment on this page. So that's my argument.
And I guess, I think this page would be more useful if we were going to keep it and it said the date and then it referenced the actual amendments that were edited the ordinances that were actually changed that year. So if it said March 12th, 2013, lighting ordinance, this ordinance and this ordinance, so you'd know which ones were actually amended that year, because the whole book wasn't amended. There weren't changes everywhere.
Correct.
Right, this is, it's useless. It's just a list of dates, and the last date is 2013, and we're in 2024.
But I will say, to Glenn's argument, is that if it was updated, you could when you open the ordinance book, you could say, wait a minute, 2013, I definitely don't have the most recent one.
And unless, I would be in favor, as you mentioned, Chris, that if it's stated with the date, what in the ordinance book was updated, as just opposed to a running list of when any change was made.
But that's going to make this so cumbersome that it becomes really complicated and convoluted.
Well, I tell you what, nobody brought up the position that you discussed. Nobody brought up that point of, hey, this is just a general, do I even have the right year book, or do I have one from 7 years ago that somebody pulled off the shelf and handed to me? Let me bring that statement back to the planning board to say, hey, we didn't talk about this and this was brought up, so it could be useful in that aspect, just so they can consider it, and if they want to change their mind, they can, and if we want to agree with it or not, we can. Is that fair?
Sure. If they're not going to the website for the most up-to-date, then
I agree 100%.
I just get rid of the whole thing.
However, this page would also appear when you go to the website.
That's true too.
So you would know if the website had been updated since the last election.
But
You know, it hasn't.
honestly, if I go to the website, I'm not looking at the preambles amendment page. I'm going to the ordinance that I need to, and then it's going to tell me right there the last time it was updated. Honestly, I didn't know this existed, because this is not something I would look at. I would go to the ordinance or the table of contents that has the list of
And I
ordinances.
think probably the average person who is not familiar with all this stuff, their bigger frustrations is that the ordinances, the way that they're crafted, are not intuitive, whether you look at them in a book or online. Yeah. Because we still have a lot of issues where you may open up and want to go to something, and then, I found what I needed. Everything's right here. And there are other things that you are bound to, but there's no reference telling you that there are other things that you should probably look at. So people say, no, I didn't have to do anything else. I read that part. I'm good to go. I think it's part of a bigger issue, which I know the planning board, listen, I caught a lot of flack from some citizens that, somebody texted me, they're like, however many zoning amendments we have, you all need to be fired. I said, well, that's the planning board's actual job, is to review those things and make suggestions, and some of them need to be done. So we're gonna have a very lengthy ballot, but it has to get done. But I will say they have been working towards it. The planning board over the years, for years, we've been working on conflicts, duplicate definitions that aren't two definitions. So it's been a work in progress. And listen, I don't think the town has an appetite to hire somebody for $150,000 to come in and fix them for us. So I will say everybody's been doing a good job. So let me just bring that back to them and bring up that point, and maybe they'll say, at least if this is the last check you have to say, hey, I'm at least looking at the current version, maybe it is helpful.
Yay.
Let's see. I forgot where I was. So we have a request from the Fire Auxiliary regarding holding Brewfest on June 29th, 2024. So we have a letter. The Kingston Fire Association would like to again hold the Brewfest on 6/29/2024 on the Plains area in Kingston. This event has become a favorite by the many participants we have seen through the years. We are proud to say this will be our 5th year holding the event. As in the past, we will fill out facilities usage for as required, and we will also notify KPD of our intent once we have approval to move forward. So,
And we have that in here.
correct. So we have the facilities. We actually have the facilities use form. So I would say it's. Oh no. No, you don't. Oh. Oh, the rec one. Okay.
And I
So
spoke with,
yeah.
They wanted to do a preliminary request for that date.
I spoke,
Yep.
I spoke to the fire chief earlier today. He apologized for not being able to be here tonight to speak in support of it. He said, but they'll get all the right permitting for the alcohol, the police. They're probably gonna have 2 details, which that they did last time. But he just wanted to be sure we've got it squared away on the calendar and move it so they can move forward.
Yeah, so I'd feel comfortable with us reserving this date in anticipation of a appropriate facilities use request. It seems to be a very well-attended event. A lot of folks really enjoyed it.
Do we need a motion?
I don't think so. I think the consensus is we're comfortable reserving that date.
Yeah, and we'll take the vote when the official request comes in.
Yep. Okay. Let's see, board business. Any other board business not on the agenda? Public comment number 2. Rick, Stacy? All right.
Rick, you've had plenty of time to warm up. Now you've...
We've had lots to talk about.
He hasn't even taken his hat off, though, you see?
He's got to stay warm. He walks here. Yeah, it is.
Birds of a feather.
Yeah. All right, so with that, I'll close public comment number 2, correspondence, applications, purchase orders. So could I grab that folder and I'll just go through it? I know a lot of folks have already had a chance to take a look at these. I didn't see, we do have the application for automotive recycling yard and or motor vehicle junkyard. The process by which this goes is it's already been reviewed by the planning board and then it has to go to the select board for prior final approval. So this is for the continuation of the John's Truck and Auto Salvage. This is located at 71A New Boston Road in Kingston. That's tax map R18, lots 22 and 23. So we do have the appropriate documentation. The select board goes through a series of questions from everything verifying that it has all meets this checklist of site plan approval, meet setback requirements, and that they're operating properly within their site plan. So the select board has gone through that and affirmed everything.
You mean the planning board?
Planning board, yes. Sorry. Planning board has gone through and affirmed all of that for section 1. And then there's section 2, which the answers needed to move forward are all no, so they have confirmed that it does not violate any of these other items within section 2 of the permit. And we do have an appropriate site plan on file, so.
So the planning board is fine with this?
Correct. The planning
And
board.
they're recommending?
So at this point, we would just need authorization to sign off on the application.
Yeah, and there's a certificate that I make up every year that you can sign, and then I send that to them.
Yep, so what I'll do is, as long as the board's fine, I'll take a motion to approve.
Make a motion to renew the junkyard license for John's Truck and Auto at the location you stated?
Yep, all right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so I will sign this form, and then their certificate has spots for all of us. A solar energy exemption application, which has all the appropriate paperwork with it. Most everyone's reviewed this. This one is for 151 Route 125. And tax map R20, lot number 25. So we have the appropriate information in here that is needed to meet the solar energy exemption requirement at its current amount, and that could be changed due to town vote.
Is that a residence, Chris?
This one,
It makes a difference.
this one's under, that's 151 Route 125, but it's under a trust. Chase, last name of Chase?
I don't know.
I could look it up.
I'm not sure if the solar exemption is for
It's a
both.
residential.
I thought it's not commercial, right?
Yeah, 151 Route 125.
I'm gonna check on that.
So I
before
believe
you-
it's, yeah, so it's gonna be on the same side of the road as the Shell station. Is it, I don't know if it's the one immediately proceeding after that, or the one at the top of the hill?
What I can't remember is if our ordinance is restricted to residential.
Yeah, to get the
That's my
exemption,
only-
to get
that's
the
my only
exemption,
question.
it is residential.
Yeah, I didn't
I mean,
notice
if it's
that.
residential, there's no issue.
Yeah.
I can take it back and bring it. It
Yeah,
doesn't
can we
go
just
into
double check
effect
this
right
one?
away
I just
anyway.
wanna make sure we
Yeah.
don't tell somebody that you get a commercial one.
Yep.
We have already signed off on the welfare guidelines. We already discussed that. We have,
Do you want to talk about the herbicide notice?
yeah, well, let me get to that one.
Okay.
We already, okay, yeah, Civic Plus, I knew we needed to sign it.
Well, we were gonna make sure
Yeah.
that posted, that went through the,
Correct, yeah. So before we sign off on that.
yeah.
We have a notice of intent. This is located at tax map R12, lot 26. It's access off a toll road, it looks like toll road. Acreage of lot 33, acreage of cut 33, and this is coming from, signed by Raymond Laterno Jr.
It's the Unitil.
Oh, it's
solar
the
project.
Unitil
Unitil
solar
site.
site.
Okay.
Okay, that makes sense.
I'm like, that's, you know, boy, you're cutting everything. But, so we have everything done in here with the appropriate estimated amounts to be cut. So it looks like everything's good on that. Application for facilities use. This is for the Kingston Recreation Facility. It's a request from the family of Joanne Hall. It looks like the contact person is Scott Harlow. This is, okay, this is for a general gathering of family and friends following funeral services for Joanne Hall. And it has the appropriate signatures and review by the chief of police, the road agent, and the fire chief. So I don't believe there's any issues with authorizing this. Nope. Can I get the purple folder? Please. And just so in here, I know most of us had a chance to review, I'll pass it down this way, but we do have a general assistance from the Human Services Department. And then we have a general assistance for rent to be reviewed and signed off. We also have a couple purchase orders in here. One is for the Seacoast Chiefs Mutual Aid. This is annual dues. This one's being, was put forward by the fire department. This is for access to the Regional Hazardous Materials Team, so this is an annual bill, and it has documented the appropriate lines and balances required for that funding. The total amount of those fees is $5,354. Thought I saw another purchase order somewhere. Maybe I'm making things up in my head, Susan. And I thought it was.
Yeah, I don't do the purchase orders, so they'd be in that purple folder if there were any.
And what was the other item you told me you wanted me to?
On your agenda, we got the notice from Unitil that they're gonna be doing the herbicide. So I did check the map. Some of it is in the aquifer protection zone, and we went through this last year. Those of you who here will recall, they went to ZBA, and the board decision was upheld, but it turned out they were gonna fall within the restrictions of the zoning. They could do less than the 25 gallons.
Yes, and
that
I
was-
will say there was, there's, I guess, some people have differing opinions to support the argument either way they want it to go, but nobody has the proof or any history and case law to support if they're right. There's an interpretation that the terms solution or mixture include the water to disperse it, and there are those that concede that no, the solution or mixture is the total volume of the volatile chemicals, the way that the RSA is crafted, and it doesn't clearly delineate that in the state law. My personal interpretation would be is that it would be not the total solution that you dilute it with, but the total solution of the hazardous would seem to be the intent of it. But as we know, I am not a Superior Court judge, so my opinion doesn't matter. This is the answer that we gave previously, so I think we're being consistent in our application of this, so that I appreciate their notice, but it appears as though that they are well below the thresholds of the required amount of chemicals. But I just did want, some other people had brought to attention their interpretation of mixture or solution, so I at least wanted it noted on the record, and if somebody wants to pursue that and has the time and energy, they could fight it if they'd like. Am I missing anything, Susan?
I think that's all.
During the department head meeting?
Right, to come up with a time and a date so that Pedro can schedule that.
To be honest with you, I kind of like the department head time frame because some of those department heads want to weigh in, and they don't have to be there, but I think.
Yeah, maybe if we schedule it like, if they're able to come in for the department head meeting, schedule it at the conclusion, like at the conclusion of the department head, like the department head section of it, so those that don't need to be here for it could go back and do the
So
other things.
schedule them at like 9:30 or something?
10 o'clock.
Because Pedro had recommended 9, and I thought that was a bad time, because that's when we needed to start the meeting. But if we schedule it for 9:30 or something like that, that would make more sense, right?
10 o'clock, I think.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Do you want to have time for all the department heads to do their thing first?
Yes.
Because you want to probably allow for,
I mean, 10 is probably going to have them sitting here longer than
Yes.
necessary. I mean, 9:30 is probably good.
Yeah, because we start at 8:30.
No.
Or
No, we start at 9.
9, yeah, we usually get through the department head stuff pretty quick.
Right. And if it runs a couple minutes, then they can wait to start
Yeah.
their presentation, but I would think
Plan
9:30.
for
That way we're not holding all the department heads.
And if they want to stay, they can stay.
Yeah.
Some they
Right.
might want to, and they
Right.
should have that opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, or members of the public might want to.
Exactly. All right, good.
So with that, I do have a quick non-public that I just want to give everyone an update on some information. And so, yeah. Oh yeah, let's do minute approvals before we go. So we need approval of meeting minutes from February 5th, 2024, as well as the budget committee hearings that we were in session as well for January 6th and January 13th. And unless anyone has any amendments or changes to them, I would consider taking that as amendment to approve all, as a motion to approve all. Okay, I'll make the motion and you second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. With that being said, I will make a motion that we move into non-public session per RSA 91A3 Roman numeral 2. This is going to be section C. I'm almost positive it's C, but personnel?
that would affect the reputation of any
Yep.
person. You want personnel?
Both, let's do C and personnel.
Okay. That dismissal promotion?
Yep,
Okay, so A and C.
yes, please. All right, so we have a motion. Ellie, roll call. Glenn? I am a yes.